Sal, what has Mike Tomlin's message been to his team this week going into Philly?
Well, there was a lot put out there this week about the fact that the Steelers have not won in Philadelphia since 1965. That's 2 stadiums ago. Lincoln Financial Field, Veterans Stadium. That was Franklin Field, October of 1965. And Mike Tomlin's message was simple. Don't worry about any of that. Don't worry about that year. Worry about this year. This team matters. And what matters most in this game is stopping Saquon Barkley. Now, they get Montravius Adams back off of the injured list. He had that meniscus tear, and he is back. He is a bulwark at the defensive tackle position. They're going to need him. As you just showed in this piece, they are absolutely great at taking the ball away, plus 17 in the turnover margin. They take the ball away, and they get you off the football field. They're second best in third down conversion on defense in the National Football League. That's the hallmark of this defense, the scheme of Terrell Austin. And these players, they challenge you at every level of the defense. T.J. Watt, Cameron Hayward, Patrick Queen, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and they will try to challenge Saquon Barkley at every single level, Michael.
All right, Sal, outstanding. Thank you. And obviously, Saquon, by the way, needs to average 121 yards per game in his last 4 to break the rushing record. Now, gather close. Watch the television closely here because Tedy is going to do some teaching. I want you to show everybody exactly what it is that has made this Eagles running attack so unstoppable and exactly what the Steelers need to do to stop it today.
The number one thing you talk about is Saquon Barkley, but how are they giving Saquon Barkley the ball and how is it so effective? It's because of the combination with Jalen Hurts, and it's a specific play, the GT counter read. This is what you have to stop, and this is what defensive coordinators say. The counter, the guard pulling, the tackle pulling, and then the read between Jalen and then Saquon, reading the defensive end right here. If he stays wide and he's there for Saquon, Jalen takes it, and there's the guard kicking out, and then the T for the tackle. He kicks out. The quarterback has a green grass. There's 10 to 15 yards, and he slides, and you can't even hit him. Extremely frustrating. Let's play it again. The GT, the counter, when both the guard and the tackle pull. All right, there's the read between Saquon and Jalen on the defensive end. Once again, they love this play. No one does it better in the league. Defensive end goes up, you keep, he stays tight, you give it to Saquon. This time, Saquon versus a defensive end in space. You're attacking both edges here, but you see the ends don't have a chance here, and you're getting 10 yards a pop. It's why Saquon's averaging that. It's just this counter GT read is so tough to stop defensively because I'm a linebacker, I'm keying these pullers, and I go. But then there's definitely a possibility of going out the other way, Rex, and then you get a defensive end outmatched in athletic ability.
And now here's my great defensive mind. So what do you do now? You're Mike Tomlin, you're that defensive staff. How are you doing what no one has done this year, and that is stop the Eagles running game?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with attacking with your edges. I think that's it. Don't let them get started. Make that read happen quicker than they want it to. Make them uncomfortable. That's how I would start with it. And I'd hit him about 6 inches above his patella. That'll slow a damn quarterback down in running. So that's another way to do it. But absolutely, I mean, that's how you have to stop. It is the hardest play in football. Why? It's 11-on-11 football. Usually you always have that extra body. Yep. With the quarterback run game, you don't have that advantage. The mathematics don't work, so change the math. If you're those edge rushing or those defensive ends, outside linebacker types, change the math. You know, present the problem to them initially like, no, you're going to – you take that read away from you, Alex.
Yeah, no doubt. And on the other side of the ball, listen, this Steelers offense, no George Pickens. You're going against maybe the best defense in the NFL. You're going to have to pull off some magic today, right? You're not going to be able to run the ball against this defensive front. You're going to have to mix it up. Again, no big play with George Pickens. Some of these other receivers, Van Jefferson, Mike Williams, are going to have to step up. You're going to have to make a play or two. And then you're going to have to make a play on special teams, right? It's one of these games. I think to go there and steal this game in Philly, you haven't done it since, what did he say, 1965. Yeah, and again, we just saw the special. This is going to have to be one of those patented Mike Tomlin Steeler ugly wins. Get one of the T.J. Watt punch-outs. Yeah, you're going to have to make a play or two, I think, to go into Philly and win this ball game.
Yeah, this isn't Bills Lions here we're talking about.
No.
I mean, if you're going to have two of the biggest games, I mean, I think this is going to be different in terms of styles. I want to see the Mike Tomlin coaching philosophy on full display. All right, special teams making plays, complimentary football, field position, all of that stuff, because it's got to be won in the fourth quarter by one play from the Steelers.
Yeah, hey guys, it's great. We're all, give Mike Tomlin all the props. Why? He's one of the greatest coaches in the history of our game. Speaking of history of our game, how about the other cat on the other sideline, this Nick Sirianni crazy dude, right? That's his win percentage. You know what's crazy? How about his win percentage? All right, that's pretty good when you're compared to George Halas. Those guys are all time. Every one of those dudes are Hall of Famers. So you know what? Maybe we can back off this cat a little bit. You know what I mean?
There's some Eagles fan in the front row there behind today who's ready to get in that guy's face, the sixth winningest head coach in football, and tell him how much he stinks if they don't win the football game today. Okay? That's happening too.
A lot of those teams ahead of him win championships.
They better
all right, we want to see him. We want to see him finish. Let's go, Sirianni.
Fascinating conversation with a fascinating person. Best example, I think, of anyone that I can think of about not judging a book by its cover. He is so different from the way he looks like an Avenger, obviously, and you heard him talking about the kneecaps and all that kind of stuff, and yet he uses all the analytics and one of the most cerebral coaches in the league. What else did you take away from that conversation?
How he gets it and how he has the pulse of his team. And you mentioned, he mentioned in there about how the game will dictate how it's going as well. And I've always said it, and you know what I'm going to say, that coaching's an art. It's not a science. And he understands his football team a hell of a lot better than anybody else does. So, yeah, everybody has a right to criticize, be critical of certain calls or whatever. But when the people disrespect them, they're a bunch of idiots that are making those comments, because this guy right here is a hell of a lot smarter than the guy making the comments about him. So that, like you say, don't judge a book by its cover. One of the smartest guys you'll ever see in the league. I've talked to a million coaches. This guy's right up there with all of them. The Bill Walsh was that I had the amazing, fortune to talk to. That's right where he's at. And guys, this team gets it. They absolutely get it. You talk about building a culture. They took it from rock bottom and built it. Did they build it with a guy that was a fantastic play caller and all that? No, they built it with a leader, and there's no better leader in this league, in my opinion, than Dan Campbell.
All right, to hold everything here, we will talk about this game in depth here, but I want to start by going live to Detroit, because that's where Jeff Darlington is as we get set for what could be a Super Bowl preview. Jeff, you talked to Jared Goff going into this game. What did he tell you?
Yeah. Well, I love listening to that conversation that Rex had with Dan, and I would follow up by mentioning that I did talk to Jared Goff last night, and I've known Jared for a very long time, very humble guy, but I said, what should I say about this game? Where's your mentality at right now? And he said, everybody thinks this is a big game tomorrow. We've had a lot of big games. We had a big game in week 1. Last week was a big game. And again, humble guy, but you can feel this edge when you talk to him. And I think it really does come from Dan Campbell. And he kind of has sort of illustrated to these guys, we are seasoned, we are experienced. We're not going to be the Detroit Lions that treat this as being some Super Bowl that it's not. Instead, we understand the importance. Jared talked about the idea of making sure that they focus on continuing to get that #1 seed, something Dan Campbell said right there. But this is still a team that believes everything is in front of them. I'll also add this, Jared talking about the aggressive play style of Dan Campbell. He said, we've been doing that all season. That's how this team has defined itself and how they will continue to do that. By the way, on the injury front, the Lions are getting back 3 defensive linemen that they did not have last week. They feel like that this is really moving in a good direction, Greeny.
Getting healthier at the right time. Jeff, thank you. So I wish you could have all been at our dinner last night, because in literally the same sentence, Rex says the Lions can run it all over this team, and Alex says the Lions can throw it all over this team. So what do you expect from their offense today?
It's going to be both. It's going to be another 450-yard performance, I think, going against this Bills defense, unless they come out of character. Right? They love to play zone. They sit in their shell. You talked about it. Their quarter shell. Occasionally, they go down to cover 3. They will run the ball all over them if they do that. And then again, listen, they didn't have a sack last week against
Matthew Stafford.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And again today, Jared Goff, if he's clean, it will be surgical, right? Like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tim Patrick, he will find zones all over this field. And if they do play man, they don't have a corner that can run with Jamison Williams.
No.
It will be bombs away. I think Goff has a big day today.
Yeah, this is all about critical decisions. You talked about McDermott earlier in the show. Rex, you had a great conversation with Campbell. I got on Campbell last week. I mean, it wasn't the last fourth down, all right? It was the fourth down going out from the 30-yard line where Green Bay got it from good field position and then scored. Now, he also talked about Jordan Love. Like, he's no Josh Allen. Okay, this is the game. All right, now, this is the game. Go for it every time. Now, I got on him last week for going for it on that particular one, but I'm telling you, I said use discretion. Well, there's no discretion this week. This is the time right now where Dan Campbell's got to come out and say, this is the one, even though your defense is healthy now, because I don't know who stops who on this one. All right, it's good that the Lions defense is getting healthy. The Bills, they like to play a lot of nickel and dime. They'll run the football. This is going up and down the field. One play, one takeaway, someone that has to kick a field goal instead of going for a touchdown. That's this game, and that is coaching.
Hey, I got to tell you something. So I'm having that interview with Dan Campbell, and this is the baddest coach in the league. All right, I can tell. So I just keep, Bills, Josh Allen, man. He was always respectful, but you could tell he's like, I'm tired of hearing about this dang Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Like, don't think for a second this team's not going to come out there and try to knock the hell out of Josh Allen. That's what I think is going to happen in this.
They're different. They're different animals. They're different beasts. But Jared Goff is playing outstanding football also in a different way than Josh Allen. And this is a guy that also, I mean, he wins this one. I mean, he's right up there in terms of, you're talking about best players in the league for the MVP.
Well, I just wanted to mention, you're talking about the Lions being able to run it whenever they want and throw it whenever they want. And Jared Goff, and we haven't mentioned the offensive line. And we go back to Dan Campbell saying he wanted to run it behind Penei Sewell. Penei Sewell right now is the best offensive lineman in all of football. There's only one other offensive lineman in history to be voted All-Pro twice before he was 25.
Munoz?
That was Anthony Munoz.
Yeah.
And now Penei Sewell is playing at that type of level. He's already been voted to one All-Pro team. He's 24. He's about to be voted to his second, joining Anthony Munoz. And that offensive line makes all this possible. The option to run, the option to throw, to have Dan Campbell be able to gamble because he knows he's got this line. It's the best offensive line in the game, and it is one of the foundational pieces as to why the Lions are who they are.